So I haven't painted in a while and I thought I might get back into it again since I have boxes of models to paint. So I thought I would paint this Uruk-Hai Battering Ram, and I'll take you through the process of painting it to a reasonable standard. Okay, so the model's all been undercoated with Chaos Black already, and I'm going to start with painting all the metal on the models. So I'm using lead belcher paint, and I'm painting all of the armor pieces, of which there is quite a lot on these figures. The chainmail is just very carefully dry brushed. You want to try and keep some of the black in the recesses of the chain to make it look like individual chain links. Okay, so as you can see, that's the armor on the first Uruk is finished. I've just now got to repeat it for the other three. If you're not familiar with dry brushing, what you do is you basically put the lead belcher on the brush and then you just wipe it off so there's not a heck of a lot of paint left on there, and then you just very carefully brush it across the raised detail. So you want to try and maintain as much of that black in the chainmail as you can. It's not absolutely imperative because we will go over it with a null oil wash, which will blacken up the black pieces of the armor again, and darken in the recesses and things anyway. Now I've almost done all of the Uruk, so there's just one more to go. But you can also paint the battering ram pieces that are metal as well at the same time. Get all those out of the way too. So we'll paint the head and tail of the ram and the handles and the bands that go around the outside of the wooden pole as well. Okay, now with all our metals all done, we're ready to move on to the wash. So we're going to use a little bit of null oil here. It's basically a black ink. For shading, it'll run down into the crevices and cracks of the model and collect there, and provide some depth. So we're going to wash all of the metallic pieces with that. We may do more than one coats, but you'll need to let them dry in between. They don't generally take too long. And be careful of any pulling because the stuff does like to pull. So in this case it will probably run down and under the model and try to pull on the underside. So just keep an eye on that. It's better to do several small washes than it is to do one massive one and end up with pulling and things like that on the underside of the model. You don't have to be particularly careful about sloshing the wash on as well. It's really just a shading thing, so just put it on there and it's going to darken up whatever color it's sitting on top of. In our case, we're only doing metal at the moment anyway, so it's not really going to affect the Chaos Black stuff too majorly. Okay, so this is the result of the first coat of null oil. It's dried now. You'll notice there's a bit of shading and things in the recesses. It gives you some sort of panel lines and things like that on the model. Now if you want to darken the metal down further, you can apply more coats of null oil, so we'll probably put another coat on here. And then because the armor of Uruk-Hai is not very pristine or well kept, we'll probably also hit it with a coat of Agrak's Earthshade as well, which is a brown wash, and that'll sort of dirty it up, make it look grubby and maybe a bit rusty and things like that. Okay, now all our washes are dried. I'm going to start doing the flesh on the Uruk-Hai, so we're going to use the rhinox hide here. It's a base coat, it's a brown color, and we're going to use that to paint all of the flesh that's exposed on the Uruk-Hai. Okay, now that's done. I'm going to take the base coat that we just used and I'm going to mix in a bit of red with it. The idea is to gradually create some various layers of reddish highlights moving up through the skin. So we'll take some of the rhinox, mix in a little bit of red to it, and then brush in the muscles and things, and maybe do a couple of coats on that. Normally you would use a red layer color, but I'm in this case going to use this corn red because I like the color that goes with it and the look it'll give on this coat. Okay, now I'm going to take this Gore brown paint, if it ever focuses, Gore brown, and I'm going to use that to paint the straps on the armor pieces. Okay, now I'm just going to take a very small amount of the lead belcher that we started with, and I'm just going to apply that to the very edges of some of the pieces of armor and parts of the battering ram, just as if those pieces of metal have been scraped and there's some slightly cleaner or highlighted or sharpened edges on some of those pieces. As you can see, the highlights on the metals really help the various parts just to pop and stand out. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of Commando Khaki and we're just going to very carefully dry brush the teeth and the mouths, just so you can see them. We don't want to fill the whole mouth in with the color though, we just want to get the teeth. So just be very careful when applying this. Okay, now I'm just going to take a bit of Gore brown, and using the dry brush technique, I'm going to dry brush it over the wood on the, well, I guess the big log that's the body of the battering ram. So we want to keep a little bit of the darker shade sort of in between it, so we get sort of a wood grain effect. And then when I've done that, to blend it all in, I gave it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, which just helps tie the browns together and gives it a little bit more uniformity so it doesn't look so artificial. Okay, so once the battering ram is all done, I'm going to take a bit of this dark earth. It's paint mixed in with sand and an adhesive, and I'm just going to like dab it thickly all over the base and kind of push it around till the base looks like it's covered in mud, and use it to cover up a bit of the foot stands as well that are on the Uruk-Hai's feet, so that they aren't quite so visible and the whole thing blends into the base. This takes quite a while to dry, so I'll probably leave this overnight till it all goes thoroughly hard. Make sure if you're using anything like this, because of the sand, that you really thoroughly wash your brush out, and maybe use a heavy older brush that you're not going to use for painting anymore to dab it on there and apply it. Okay, once the base has had enough time to dry and it's all gone nice and hard, I'm going to apply a bit of dryad bark to the base to make it all a nice muddy brown colour. Okay, now that that's dry, I'm then going to take a little bit of the bleached bone that we had before, or Commando Khaki, which is the equivalent, and just dry brush a little bit of that on the peaks of the muds, just to give it a little bit of a highlight. When that's done, I'm just going to finish the base off by adding a little bit of dead or dried grass, just a few clumps. So I'm going to apply a little bit of a few drops of the PVA wood glue. Focus, damn you! Apply a few drops of that on there. It's good because it dries clear, so it's better than using super glue, which will leave a white fume mark on your paint. Just put a few drops on there where I want it to go. And then we'll just get the container of dried grass flock. So we just sprinkle some of that on there. Fairly dense is fine, because you can tip what's left over back into the box. Okay, and then make sure you move the box away, or put the lid on the box before you blow on your grass. Just give it a few blows to get the little pieces of flock to stand up, so it looks a bit like grass, and then leave it to dry. And that's it. That's our Uruk-Hai with Battering Ram finished to a reasonable standard and ready for gameplay. If you want to protect your paintwork, I usually just apply a few liberal coats of a Tamiya matte clear, and just spray that on it, let that dry. Make sure you don't have anything glossy on there before you spray it, otherwise it dulls it right down. But that'll just protect the paint and keep your finish looking nice. And now you're all ready to play with it. So I hope you enjoyed my painting tutorial. I'll probably make some others. If you like the video, please click subscribe. Feel free to leave any comments below, and I'll let you know when my next video comes out. Thanks for watching. if you're at all interested, this is what my workbench looks like. It's fairly typical for a modeler. There's models everywhere in various states of completion because I can't control myself. So I'll try and clean my desk up before I make the next video, so it's a bit tidier.